Tonight, the massive storm from Texas to the Northeast, millions under alert. The deadly storms are moving across the country at this hour. Flash flood warnings in multiple states. The latest track and which areas are most at risk tonight. The fallout after our Terry Moran's wide-ranging and exclusive interview with President Trump. Trump says he could get Abrego Garcia back if he wanted to. And now ABC News has learned there have been conversations with El Salvador's president. This comes as a judge ordered today a Columbia student detained at his citizenship interview must be released. His attorney is standing by. Tonight, for the first time in 3 years, the American economy is shrinking, largely driven by President Trump's tariffs on America's trade partners. The president praises his tariff policy during today's cabinet meeting. Elon Musk in the room with the cabinet members. The Supreme Court hears a case that could ultimately establish the first publicly funded religious charter school. It's an issue top Republicans disagree on in Oklahoma.
If you fund a Catholic school today, then you must fund the Baptist school tomorrow, the Methodist school the day thereafter, the Wicca school, the Satanic school, the Christian Scientist school. Once we've started down the slope, the door's open.
Prank call punishment. What the Falcons must now do after a coordinator's son prank called star quarterback Shedeur Sanders during his major slide in the NFL draft. Tonight, the chilling hazing scandal rocking a New York high school. 11 members of the boys' varsity lacrosse team given 48 hours to turn themselves in. The alleged attack on a younger player recorded on video. No one is raining on her parade. The legendary star who convinced Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan, Mariah Carey, and Ariana Grande to team up with her. And when you can listen for yourself.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us on this busy Wednesday night. We are tracking breaking news on Ukraine, a key mineral deal, and the new economic slowdown and what it could mean for your wallet right now. But we begin tonight with that immigration showdown. Tonight, 7 weeks since Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an undocumented immigrant, was deported to a notorious Salvadoran prison. He is still not back in the United States, even after a court order required the Trump administration to facilitate his return, and after the government acknowledged it was an error. President Trump told our Terry Moran he could call El Salvador's president and tell him to send Abrego Garcia back.
Power the presidency. You could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the
Today, we've learned the U.S. has been in touch with El Salvador's president. Sources tell ABC News Secretary of State Rubio has been in touch. It's not clear exactly what they talked about. And while that showdown continues to play out, a victory in court today for the organizer of a pro-Palestinian movement at Columbia University, who was freed from federal custody today. Mohsen Madawi is a permanent legal resident, but he was detained 2 weeks ago by ICE at what he thought was his citizenship interview in Vermont after criticizing Israel's war on Gaza. Now freed, his message to Donald Trump tonight: I am not afraid of you. We'll have one of his attorneys joining us in just a moment with more on what this case could mean for free speech in America. But first, our senior political correspondent Rachel Scott leads us off.
Tonight, sources tell ABC News Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been in touch with the president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the undocumented immigrant deported to a notorious Salvadorian prison because of an administrative error. It comes weeks after the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release. And 24 hours after the president acknowledged to our Terry Moran he could call Bukele himself and tell him to send the man back.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
Today, ABC's Karen Travers asking again.
Mr. President, you told ABC News yesterday that you could get Abrego Garcia back if you wanted to. Do you think President Bukele would turn you down if you made that request?
I really don't know. I know that he's been a great friend of our country. I haven't spoken to him. I really leave that to the lawyers.
Our thanks to Rachel Scott. Mohsen Madawi, the organizer of a pro-Palestinian movement at Columbia University, was freed today from federal custody. Madawi is a permanent legal resident and was detained 2 weeks ago at an appointment in Vermont where he thought he was a step closer to becoming a U.S. resident. Today, the judge who ordered his release compared the current political climate to McCarthyism, saying this is not the first time that the nation has seen chilling action by the government intended to shut down debate. Joining us now is Luna Druby, one of his attorneys, partner at Bedlock, Levine and Hoffman. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Just give us a sense of how your client is doing tonight.
He's shocked, relieved, proud to be in this country and proud to see justice actually in action.
And your client, upon being released, had a particular message for President Trump. He said, "I am not afraid of you," adding, "This is what justice is. And for anybody who's doubting justice, this is a light of hope, a hope and faith in the justice system in America." Can you elaborate on that in terms of what the judge's ruling means for your client?
Well, we contend, and I think saw the judge agreed, that our client was detained solely on the basis of his speech. He is a Palestinian man and grew up in a Palestinian refugee camp and spoke out about peace in the region and on behalf of Palestinians. So today, the court told the government that they cannot detain individuals solely because they're engaged in lawful speech. And that's exactly what Mr. Madawi was engaged in.
And as we mentioned earlier, he was detained for 2 weeks. Do you know how he's spending his first night again as a free man?
I think he'll be sleeping in a bed, a regular bed. And I think he's really looking forward to it.
And what's next in the case? Does it all end here, or this is just the beginning?
Unfortunately, this is just the beginning. As you know, there are many other cases like this. This is just his release. We still have to fight the case, which we feel confident about and believe we will succeed on.
And taking a step back, what does this case mean for freedom of speech on college campuses and beyond?
I think it stands for the proposition of what this country is supposed to stand for, which is you should feel free to speak about issues that matter, that are lawful, without fear of government interference, without fear of the masked men that detained Mr. Madawi, that we should be able to speak freely about matters such as human rights without feeling like the government's going to detain us and arrest us as a result.
Do you feel that Columbia University gave him adequate support?
I think that he was a proud member of Columbia University, and he proudly spoke on the Columbia campus. When it came to his detention, you know, it happened at the naturalization interview. But, you know, could they have done more? Yes, they certainly could have done a lot more to protect him, I think.
Are you surprised that we're in this place right now in our country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In this day and age, that anybody could possibly be arrested, incarcerated, and in a prison solely because they advocated for human rights, it should terrify everyone.
Do you think that there will be a chilling effect as a result of his detention and others?
I think so. I think that that's a part of our argument here, is that what happened to him is terrifying everyone. Can I go to my naturalization appointment? Should I stop protesting Palestine or human rights? You know, any number of things. What's next? What topic? Global justice, climate justice. What should I be afraid of saying? And what this country should remember is that we should be allowed to freely speak on matters that matter without fear of governmental intervention or detention.
Luna Druby, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now to that new report, which shows a shrinking U.S. economy since President Trump took office. Trump blames President Biden, while he also acknowledged the real impacts Americans may feel from the trade war. And we're following that late-breaking news of a deal between the U.S. and Ukraine on minerals. Our chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce is at the White House tonight covering it all.
Tonight, the new numbers tell a sober story. As President Trump ramped up his trade war, the American economy shrinking. The gross domestic product declining 0.3% in the first 3 months of this year. The president fully aware of how the markets have reacted to his tariffs. Today, instead, blaming his predecessor.
You probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump.
The president urging Americans to be patient while insisting the downturn has nothing to do with tariffs. But before Trump took office, there had been 33 straight months of growth. Now economists say Trump's tariffs have created new uncertainty. Wall Street seeing its worst start to a presidential term since Nixon in 1974. 24 hours before today's economic report, our Terry Moran asking the president about fears his trade policy will fuel inflation.
There is a lot of concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on.
Trade with China hit with 145% tariffs, dramatically slowing. The number of cargo ships coming into the port of Los Angeles next week down 36% from this time last year. Sources tell us Target and Walmart have warned the president that consumers could soon be seeing empty shelves. Trump today seeming to acknowledge that, but brushing it off when talking about dolls for children.
You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, you know. And maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But we're not talking about something that we have to go out of our way.
Mary Bruce joins us now. And Mary, switching gears to some breaking news coming in. There's word the U.S. and Ukraine have just signed that key deal for rare earth minerals. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, they have just signed this deal. It comes just days after President Trump met with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the Pope's funeral, and it gives the U.S. access to some of Ukraine's mineral resources, but it also builds goodwill between the two countries, which have been at odds for the last few months. The Treasury Secretary tonight saying the deal, quote, signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process. Lindsay.
All right, Mary Bruce from the White House for us. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you.
Let's bring in ABC News national security analyst Mick Mulroy. Mick, thanks for joining us. This deal comes just days after Trump met with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the Pope's funeral. Your reaction here, any surprise?
Well, Lindsay, I think it's a good thing to see that both countries now strategically in alignment, especially when it comes to these rare earth minerals, oil, and gas, because that gives the U.S. a vested interest, of course, in Ukraine being able to access those minerals, which means keeping its territory. And in fact, 60% of these rare earth minerals are under the territory that Russia currently has. So that to be actualized, they would actually have to take back that territory. So if the reporting is correct, it seems fair, at least to me. And obviously the Ukrainians wouldn't have signed it if they didn't believe it was fair to them.
What will this deal mean ultimately for relations between the two countries who have been a bit frosty for the last few months?
Well, I think it's going to improve them because this shows that the United States is going to be in a business relationship, if you will, to ensure that Ukraine is able to carry out its side of this agreement, which means they have to be in control of their territory, and they'd have to regain the territory that was lost because of the Russian invasion to be able to really access all of this. It is apparently going to be 50-50. It's not going to be retroactive, so the Ukrainians aren't going to have to pay back for the amount of funds that the U.S. has already provided to them, which wouldn't be fair in my estimation. So this does look like a fair agreement, and I think it's a positive step for both countries and something that Russia really didn't want to see signed.
And that is my question, because for so much time it seemed as if, and President Trump was getting criticized, that he was a little bit too cozy with Putin. Does that surprise you that he seems to have kind of moved away? Donald Trump, that is.
Well, correct. I understand, Lindsay. I think this is pleasantly surprised. I put it that way, because this really shows And not only did this mean that the U.S. and Ukraine are in a economic arrangement, it means that the U.S. needs to support them in their effort to defend themselves against this unlawful invasion by Russia. The only way to actualize this, and this is billions and billions of dollars potentially worth of material that would benefit both countries. But in order to be actualized, you have to be able to actually reach it, which means there's going to have to be investments. And of course, Ukraine is going to have to be able to adequately defend itself against further Russian aggression and potentially take back other territory that they've already lost. So I do think long term, this shows a strategic alliance economically, which would also include the security component from the United States.
And switching gears to Kuwait now, U.S. official says Kuwait has released 10 Americans who were detained in the country. In a statement, a private consultant for all but one of the freed thanked those responsible for bringing them home while faulting the Biden administration for not doing enough, pinning the blame on a bad policy. What's your reaction to that?
So what we can see, obviously, there's very strict rules against drug use in Kuwait. It's unclear whether there was even drug use in this case. In fact, the confessions they claimed to be forced to have signed were in Arabic. So it's even unclear whether they understood what they were signing. But it's good to have them home. I think that's going to have to be something that's worked out in the future of just how these arrangements are. And these were military contractors, and some of them were prior military service, so veterans. In order for the U.S. to have this relationship and have Americans working there, this needs to be clear, because it's something that I think people are going to be very concerned about in the future. As to whether there was, a different policy between the current administration in the past, I simply don't know that. But certainly it's good to have Americans home. It's very unclear what exactly happened, at least to me, in this case.
All right, Mick Mulroy for us. Thanks so much, Mick. Now to the deadly storms as a damaging system stretches from Texas all the way to Pennsylvania and New York. More than 50 million Americans are on alert for severe weather and life-threatening flash flooding. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg has a storm track for us in a moment. But first, here's ABC's Maria Villarreal in Dallas.
Tonight, powerful storms pummeling the plains for a third night in a row. Record rain inundating drivers navigating rivers during their morning commute in Norman, Oklahoma. Lightning sending this home up in flames in Oklahoma City. A mother and 2 children inside at the time, escaping with minor injuries. South of their families urged to evacuate from flooded neighborhoods in Lexington. Overnight, 100-mile-an-hour straight-line winds and baseball-sized hail slamming communities southwest of Wichita Falls, Texas. Part of the same system striking Pennsylvania, knocking out power to hundreds of thousands. The Pittsburgh area hit hard, authorities in at least one borough declaring a state of emergency. AccuWeather's Monica Danielle in State College with a driver trapped under power lines.
A firefighter came by and told me it's going to be a while, but he told you to stay in the car. He said you're safe in there, stay in the car.
That driver is okay, but at least 4 are dead in Pennsylvania, including at least 2 people who were electrocuted.
Our thanks to Maria. And let's time out where the storm is going next with our chief meteorologist, Lee Goldberg from our New York station, WABC. Lee, tell us how things are looking.
Lindsay, this part of the country has been a magnet for severe weather and flash flooding, and we see another heavy line of thunderstorms that are rolling through parts of Texas all the way up to Arkansas. There are tornado watches up from Lufkin to Little Rock and a new tornado watch. St. Louis to Terre Haute, some active tornado warnings here. Storms could bring 70-mile-per-hour winds, and then you have the flash flood threat. There are more storms working toward Wichita Falls, had its wettest April. In fact, the entire state of Oklahoma has had its wettest April, and now significant flooding tonight can continue from Waco all the way up to Fort Smith. So these showers move slowly and expand overnight, and then the severe weather threat is going to expand again tomorrow. This time it's all the way up to the Ohio Valley, whether it's Pittsburgh into Cincinnati, and again extends down to Texas for one more day. Lindsay?
All right, Lee Goldberg for us. Thanks so much, Lee. Now to a chilling high school hazing scandal in Syracuse, New York. Authorities describe an incident that resembled an armed kidnapping, and the DA there called it hazing on steroids. Tonight, 11 students have surrendered to police. Here's ABC's Whit Johnson.
Tonight, 11 high school students have now turned themselves in over an alleged prank near Syracuse, New York, that the district attorney says went way beyond hazing. This after authorities issued a 48-hour ultimatum urging them to surrender.
And this is hazing on steroids, okay? This could have resulted in such a tragedy.
Many of those students on the West Hill High School varsity boys lacrosse team, accused of taking underclassmen to a lacrosse game last week and then driving them to a remote wooded area pretending to be lost.
People came out of the woods all dressed in black. They were armed with what appeared to be at least one handgun and at least one knife.
Authorities say at least 4 students ran away, but one left behind, his hands tied, placed in the trunk of a car with a hood over his head by students posing as kidnappers. Then, after the incident, taking that victim home. The school district now canceling the remainder of the varsity boys lacrosse season.
Our thanks to Whit Johnson. Jurors heard dramatic testimony in the Karen Reed murder trial. A key witness testified about what she said Karen Reed told police that night. Matt Gutman is following the trial for us.
Tonight, Karen Reed's lawyers presenting to the jury the defense theory that has turned this case into a national sensation, that the murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe was covered up. On the stand for 2 days, Jennifer McCabe, a star witness for the prosecution who was with Reed when Reed discovered her boyfriend, O'Keefe, dying of blunt force trauma and hypothermia in the snow. Reed's been charged with second-degree murder, accused of deliberately hitting him with her SUV, but Reed maintaining she's innocent. That's Jennifer McCabe you hear on this 911 call.
There's a man unresponsive in the snow. I don't know if he's breathing. I think he's passed away.
You can hear Reed screaming in the background, McCabe describing her as hysterical.
Did you hear or do you remember the defendant saying anything to the first responder?
Yes.
What did she say?
She told the first responder, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
The prosecution telling the jury that is an admission of guilt. But in cross-examination, the defense trying to show that the star witness teamed up with others to make sure they all told the same story. McCabe pushing back.
We just give each other the heads up, hey, somebody's coming, because we're just like normal moms. We're not used to this.
And that's helpful in making sure that the stories she tells are consistent with the stories you tell to different law enforcement agencies, correct?
No, we are not telling stories.
And late today after court, Karen Reed calling her one-time friend a liar.
Inconsistencies, every statement's different. Under oath, not under oath, with the cops are all wrong. This is very similar to what we saw a year ago.
Why is she so inconsistent?
Because she's lying.
Our thanks to Matt Gutman. Now to the tragic accident of a longtime friend and former agent of NFL great John Elway. Jeff Spurbeck fell off the back of a golf cart after a party, hitting his head. Tonight, ABC News has learned that Spurbeck has tragically died. Here's ABC's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, authorities investigating a tragic accident reportedly involving Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway that left his longtime friend and agent dead. According to TMZ, Elway was allegedly driving a golf cart after a party Saturday in the gated community of La Quinta, California, when suddenly Jeff Spurbeck fell off the back of the cart, hit his head, and suffered a traumatic brain injury. Witnesses describing a chaotic scene.
It was so scary. I mean, it was nothing like we've ever seen. You just don't think you're going to ever witness anything like that. But his wife was like hysterical.
She says Elway was calling for help.
He was on the phone trying to call 911, call anyone.
The 62-year-old Spurbeck rushed to the hospital where he died this morning. Elway played in the NFL for 16 seasons, winning 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos. And Spurbeck was his agent for a time, and the two eventually became business partners. ABC News reached out to Elway for comment. So far, has not heard back.
Our thanks to Kana. And in a statement just into ESPN, John Elway says, I am absolutely devastated and heartbroken by the passing of my close friend, business partner, and agent, Jeff Spurbeck. Jeff will be deeply missed for the loyalty, wisdom, friendship, and love he brought into my life and the lives of so many others. Next tonight, the NFL has fined the Atlanta Falcons and coach $350,000 after a prank call from the coach's son to college football star Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft, a call that gave him false hope. Tonight, you'll see the video of that prank call. Here's Ika Jachi.
Tonight, the NFL fining the Atlanta Falcons and their defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $350,000 after Ulbrich's son admitted to a prank call on a college football star during the draft.
Going forward, I promise my son and I will work hard to demonstrate we are better than this.
Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, son of NFL legend Deion Sanders, anxiously waiting for his name to be called in the second round, hopeful when the phone rang.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
But it wasn't the Saints on the phone. Video posted online shows 21-year-old Jax Ulbrich and a friend making the call.
We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
Sanders, live streaming on Twitch during the draft, skeptical.
But nobody got this number, though.
The Falcons say Ulbrich got Sanders' number from his father's unlocked iPad. And tonight, the NFL fining the Falcons $250,000 and Ulbrich $100,000 for failing to prevent the disclosure of confidential information.
Ike Ajachi reporting there. Coming up, a Florida sheriff is certain deputies stopped a mass shooting. How they were tipped off by authorities investigating an alleged Wisconsin school shooter. But first, the debate taking center stage in the nation's highest court, using taxpayer funds for religious charter schools.
If you fund a Catholic school today, then you must fund the Baptist school tomorrow, the Methodist school the day thereafter, the Wicca school, the Satanic school, the Christian Scientist school. Once we've started down the slope, the door's open.
Welcome back, everyone. The freedom to practice any religion is as American as apple pie. So is the separation of church and state. But one case in Oklahoma might soon blur that separation. That case was argued before the Supreme Court today, and it pits the state's Republican governor, who supports the Catholic diocese's attempt to establish a religious charter school using taxpayer dollars, against the state's attorney general, who does not. Our senior national correspondent Steve Osunsami spoke to both of them and has this report from Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is one of those places where the sky just looks bigger, where cattle ranches stretch as far as the eye can see, and where there are more God-fearing Christians than in most other states across America. So for Oklahoma's governor, it's an easy call to stand behind a surprising decision that might create the country's first religious public school in Oklahoma City.
We're a nation that believes in God, and so why are we trying to discriminate against this person or that person? Let's open it up and let's let parents choose what's best for them.
The way it works across the country is that any person or group can ask a state to create a charter school that meets the particular interests or needs of their children. W-X-Y-Z. And these are truly public schools because they get public money. Like this one we visited in Georgia for students, some of them young children who work in the state's television and film industry.
Good morning, Utopian Academy. Welcome to another undeniably unique day here at the U.
About 2 years ago in Oklahoma, this Catholic archdiocese asked the state to create a religious virtual charter school called St. Isidore for grades K through 12 that the church would run with state funding. And a state charter school commission said yes, explaining that they didn't feel like discriminating against Christians. They've been fighting with lawsuits here ever since, meeting today in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, where the justices were divided.
We are thankful to the U.S. Supreme Court for hearing our case today.
We think it's illegal to discriminate based on someone's faith or religion, right? And so if you're going to have a public benefit, if you're going to have charter schools in your state, you cannot discriminate against a Catholic charter school or a Jewish charter school or a Christian or anything. We think you can't, and we're excited the Supreme Court is going to hear this.
But there's the other side of it. The other side, of course, is using public dollars to give to a religious entity to run a school.
You know, that is a terrible argument, and I'll tell you why. In Oklahoma, for example, we have Sooner Care, what we call our Medicaid program. Mm-hmm. We have 1 million Oklahomans on it. So they can go use a Christian doctor, a Catholic hospital, they can go use a Muslim doctor, anybody that's willing to take that. Those are public dollars going to a private business that's meeting that need. It's a free market principle. Why is education any different?
He also points out that Oklahoma parents can already send their kids to religious schools using public money by using private school vouchers, which the state pays for. And so he says that drawing the line at the government creating a religious school seems silly.
And let me remind you this, you don't have to send your kids to the Catholic school. I did a town hall just the other day and a parent said, what do you say if I don't agree with your religion? I'm like, great, you don't have to go to St. Isidore. You don't have to send your kids there. You can send your kids to any number of other schools. That's what freedom is about, and that's what religious freedom, and that's what school choice is about.
When my daughter was in 2nd grade, we noticed that she was having really poor reading skills.
This isn't your typical political fight with both conservative and liberal parents on each side. The argument over what might be best for children is up against very familiar language and state and federal law that this country was built on, saying that the state can't sponsor religion.
200 families in Oklahoma immediately signed up for this school, so there is a high demand among parents to have better educational alternatives in Oklahoma.
Last year, the case was here at the state Supreme Court in Oklahoma.
If that's what this court decides, so be it.
And they said no to the new school, deciding that the line between church and state is written more clearly in the state constitution than some might think. About 400 parents who had planned to send their kids this school year to St. Isidore were upset.
We came from like a private school, a Catholic school, so this would have been a more affordable option for us. I'm nervous to just fully homeschool.
Have you heard from a lot of parents on this?
Many parents have reached out and said thank you.
And the lead lawyer fighting against the Christians is a Christian himself, the conservative Republican Attorney General of Oklahoma, Mr. Gentner Drummond.
If St. Isidore wins, then we will have Jewish and Muslim families paying for Christian education. And the Christians who are the majority of Oklahoma may not like it when the Christian families and the Muslim families are paying for Jewish religion, or the Jewish and Christian families are paying for Muslim religion, or the people that don't want any religion are paying for a multitude of religions. If you fund a Catholic school today, then you must fund the Baptist school tomorrow, the Methodist school the day thereafter, the Wicca school, the Satanic school, the Christian Scientist school. Once we've started down the slope, the door is open.
He says if the U.S. Supreme Court decides against him, this will destroy the charter school system as we know it. Currently, 45 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico say that these are public schools, where kids, for example, can't be taught how Jesus Christ died for their sins.
So what you will see as a result, we will have states that discontinue charter schools. Those that are unwilling to establish religion will stop. We have a governor who is not an attorney. We have an attorney general who is an attorney and is unafraid to do the right thing regardless of the cost. And in this instance, until my Constitution of the United States is altered or my Constitution of Oklahoma is altered, I must defend the law.
The leading national group for charter schools in America agrees with him, saying in a statement that this could be catastrophic for nearly 4 million students. A decision in favor of religious charter schools will spark years of litigation. In some states, it could mean the end of charter schools, the only means of school choice for many families altogether.
I totally disagree. Okay, let me ask you this. So, do you go to a Catholic hospital?
I would go to a Catholic hospital,
okay,
you're right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I really find it offensive that the Attorney General is trying to, use the term radical Muslim, and he's trying to say all these things about these other charter schools that would come into place, when this is what religious freedoms are about. To me, it's just perfectly clear that St. Isidore should be able to offer this service in Oklahoma if they're going to be a charter school like any other charter school.
For now, about 200 families here in Oklahoma who were hoping to send their kids to this new religious school will have to wait. The High Court won't decide until summer at the earliest which of the God-fearing people on either side of this struggle are in the right.
Our thanks to Steve Osunsami, as always. Coming up, how some manufacturers have gotten stealthy with price increases caused by tariffs. So clandestine, they've made the word tariffs disappear altogether. Officer, it was not my fault. It was the kangaroos. That's what drivers in Alabama found themselves saying. We'll tell you more. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. If you're feeling some serious sticker shock when shopping in the electronics aisles these days, you're not alone. Let's take a look at the impacts on tariffs on gadget prices by the numbers. Prepare to pay more for tech in this country. Gizmodo reports that prices for TVs, gaming devices, chargers, and personal computer gear, it's all increased just in the last month. Brands like Acer in Taiwan increased their costs across the board by 10% in direct response to the tariffs. That includes their laptops and monitors. A laptop that was once $3,000 saw a price hike to $3,300 if U.S. consumers can even find it in stock. And Chinese brand Anker, one of Amazon's largest sellers of things like power banks and phone cases, raised prices on a fifth of its products by nearly 20% earlier this month when the president added an extra import duty. Most retailers are raising prices stealthily, hoping that consumers won't notice. Take, for example, the Sony Bravia 8 TV. It now costs $4,000 at 65 inches. The previous 2023 version cost $500 less. And Taiwan's Pegatron, a major supplier to Apple, warned of shortages in consumer electronics in response to the tariffs. The company's chairman told Reuters that in just 2 months, Americans could be seeing shelves empty of their products. While some brands like Amazon won't outright say the tariffs are to blame for price increases, there's no doubt we are seeing higher prices at checkout. And still ahead, it's not your typical superhero movie, and he's not your typical hero. Actor Wyatt Russell is here to talk about his role in the upcoming Marvel film Thunderbolts. And after heroic deputies rescue a child from a busy freeway, the important reminder tonight about the people on the autism spectrum and treatment by law enforcement. A man accused of being romantically tied to an alleged Wisconsin school shooter arrested for threats of mass violence. A runaway kangaroo on a highway in Alabama. And Barbra Streisand's new album featuring some of music's biggest names. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown.
A Florida man is under arrest after an investigation found he allegedly made multiple threats of mass violence. The Palm Beach County Sheriff also said Damian Allen impersonated an officer.
There's no doubt in my mind they have stopped a mass shooting that was going to happen. This guy was ready to go, had all the equipment, had the propensity to do it. It's just a matter of what day was going to set him off to go do it.
Authorities say the arrest came after a tip from the FBI while investigating the alleged Wisconsin school shooter who is accused of killing 2 people at a Christian school in December. A food cart worker was shot in the arm during a dispute involving up to 3 young men in New York's Times Square just before 5 a.m. Wednesday. The 29-year-old victim is expected to recover. At least 3 people were taken into custody, one of them possibly the gunman. A case of active tuberculosis has been confirmed at a Florida high school. The Florida Department of Health in Broward County identified the infected individual, who was recently at Dillard High School in Fort Lauderdale. School officials say individuals who may have been exposed have already been notified. It is unclear whether the individual is a student or faculty member. Last year, the U.S. saw more than 8,000 cases of TB, which is spread through the air. While TB cases have been steadily declining since the mid-1990s, rates increased over the past several years. San Diego authorities have released dramatic video showing the moments deputies rescued a missing 11-year-old boy with autism from a busy freeway. The child, who is nonverbal, was with his family when he ran out of a supermarket. This happened last month. Luckily, an off-duty dispatcher spotted the boy running up the freeway on a ramp and was able to call for help. A runaway kangaroo caused a 2-car crash on an Alabama highway, leaving drivers to do a double take.
I would never have guessed in a million years that had been a kangaroo. She's hopping mad.
Authorities shut down the interstate in both directions while trying to catch the marsupial. The kangaroo was eventually captured. It was not injured in the crash. The animal apparently escaped its owner at a nearby farm. Barbra Streisand is announcing a new album, a collection of duets with heavy hitters like Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan, and Mariah Carey. Teasing her new collaborations, she released her latest single, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. The new 11-track album is titled The Secret Life, Partners Volume 2. The project will be a mix of original projects as well as covers. It's slated to release on June 25th.
Marvel is returning to the big screen with the film Thunderbolts, featuring an unlikely band of misfits who are not your typical heroes. They're anti-heroes, really, and one of them is the Marvel Cinematic Universe character John Walker, portrayed by actor Wyatt Russell. Russell is currently starring in Apple TV Plus's Monarch: Legacy of Monsters opposite his father Kurt Russell, and in Thunderbolts, his John Walker is joined by other MCU characters Yelena Bevlova, Bucky Barnes, Red Guardian, Ghost, and Taskmaster in a dangerous mission that forces each of them to confront the darkest corners of their past. Let's take a look.
And what about your hat?
The hat. The helmet?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
It's like cool, right? You like it?
Do you like the hat?
Yeah, I think the hat's pretty sweet.
Joining us now is Wyatt Russell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So in your estimation, how is Thunderbolts not your average hero movie?
Usually hero movies start with a bunch of people who are really good at their jobs and who can work together very well fighting some sort of existential or real threat. And Thunderbolts really starts with a bunch of people who do not work well together. They're not the best superheroes. They're not the A-team, what people consider the A-team. And they need to come together to actually become better versions of themselves and learn how to work together to become the superheroes that we need them to become to save the world. But it deals with a lot of emotional elements that normally superhero movies don't really dive into. There's a lot of fun, there's a lot of punching and kicking, but the core element of the film that I think people are relating to and enjoying is that it dives into things that, you know, like mental health issues and things that are difficult to talk about in movies like this that I think we succeeded in doing.
And you spent a lot of time outside of the punching and kicking, really in just their regular lives, the anti-hero kind of scenes. What does that message really tell us about what it is to be a hero?
I think it connects to a lot of people who feel shame around certain things in their life, and that's what connects these heroes, I think, to a more common audience. Is they do deal with like these very real elements of their life that you see throughout the movie that they end up kind of working through in ways together to become, again, better versions of themselves.
Are there any aspects of John Walker that resonate with you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel a little misunderstood every once in a while. I think everybody does, you know, that being always wanting to have people see you as the best version of yourself when really you don't have control of that always. That's up to other people, especially in this business. And so there's elements of him that I find in that arena where you have to go, well, let go a little bit, dude. You can't hold on too tight. You know, things don't work well when you grip the stick too tight. We would call it in sports. So I guess I can relate to that a little bit.
And you mentioned like being the best version of ourselves. You're also good friends with the movie's director. Does that help? I would imagine it does, that they're able to kind of bring out the best in you as an actor when they know what you're really capable of.
Definitely. I mean, Jake Schreier, the director, Jake and I have been friends for a very long time now. We did a show called Lodge 49 together. Going into this movie, when I heard Jake, when he called me and he's like, hey, do you want to do a Marvel movie together? And I was like, no way, what? Like, oh my God. And all the other actors, I think it was nice for them to have me have that connection with Jake where they'd be like, does he like what I'm doing? And I'm like, I promise you he likes what you're doing. He's just a very reserved person and he's not going to give you like, oh my God, great job, unbelievable. He's going to be always thinking about the movie in his head and crafting it as he goes.
Marvel's Thunderbolts, starring Wyatt Russell, Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Lewis Pullman, David Harbour, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. How's that for a cast? Hits the big screen this Friday, May 2nd. It is going to be raining here on the East Coast, so great time to see a movie. By the way, Disney is a parent company of both ABC News and Marvel. Finally tonight, our own Kira Phillips is here with a special project she's been working on for months at this point, and she is sharing the story with us for the very first time. Kira, tell us all about it.
I will. Linsey, I thought of you actually immediately when I started working on this mini documentary. When I first met this extraordinary woman, I knew I would fall in love with her instantly. She is not only an amazing mom, wife, and co-worker to everyone around her, but she's also a pretty exceptional athlete, too. Here's a sneak peek inside her journey to reach a goal that she's been working on for quite some time.
Finishing our 50th state, running a half marathon in all the states.
Hey, Linsey, I just finished my run, too. 20 minutes on a treadmill, and I feel like a slacker up against you.
Linsey, 50? You really did it. 50 states?
Oh, this is so
50
sweet.
states?
Oh my
Really?
gosh.
I'm still wrapping my head around how on earth you did this.
We are all in awe of you.
You have the same 24 hours in a day that we all have, and somehow you do so much more with it.
I am so proud of you. What can't you do?
Congratulations, Linsey! Congrats, Linsey! We love you!
Oh my goodness. Best for last, Hawaii.
And I love the way you ended it in one of my favorite states, Hawaii. Congratulations.
Congratulations. You guys were such an inspiration. Thank you for being a colleague. Thank you for being amazing. Congratulations.
Congratulations, and I hope you get to celebrate and relax a little. You certainly earned it.
Congratulations to you and to Paul. 50 states. It's incredible. We love you.
I won't be doing that, but I'm glad you did it.
Kira, you guys got me.
Hi, everybody. It was great to accomplish this feat of 50 half marathons in 50 states. I'm so proud to achieve this accomplishment with you.
I enjoyed tagging along with you and Dad on your 50th marathons. I hope you had a great time.
And we love you, and as it says in the back, soulmates in the long run.
You guys got me. Kira, so it's so funny. Right before I talked to you, I said to John, what is her story about? And he was just like so vague. And I was like, you're not going to give me more than that? You guys really surprised me. That
Hey, look, that is your team. That is your producers. That was their idea. Of course, we all knew what you were doing. I don't know how you did 50 states and all these half marathons. I know you're an amazing runner, but I had no idea that this was going to take so long, and you did it. And there you are with your husband. Your son is so precious. He's so proud of you and so excited for you. So I'm curious, how are you feeling?
Right now in this moment, I'm so hot. I'm like, wait, what? This is about me. As much as I'm on camera every day, I don't like to do my own stories. But
I know, you're humble.
But, you know, it really has been, I was talking to a colleague just a little while ago. I kind of feel a little sad that it's over. It really is so bittersweet. I was looking forward to it being over, but now that it's over, it's like, what's the next thing? I'm hungry
I have an idea.
For the next. What are we going to do?
How about Europe?
Oh, well, I was thinking about doing the big five, like Tokyo and Berlin and London. Yes, so
there
perhaps
you go.
2026, got to have a new goal.
And I'll be right there at the end of the finish line. Okay, with the beers.
You got to run too. You got to run.
I might be able to make halfway with you, my dear friend, but that's as far as I can go.
Kira, I thank you, and to the whole team here. You guys really surprised me. I'm never surprised about anything. You guys got me here. Thank you.
We love you, Linsey.
So heartfelt. And I love you guys. Love you, Kira. Thank you. Well, that is our show for this hour. I'm Linsey Davis. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us.